Okay, welcome everybody to our third weekly winter webinar. Really excited to welcome you here today. We've got a good group on the line for environmental education and the new BC curriculum. I know a few more folks are coming, but I think we'll get going. I'll start with the introductions, and then we'll bring Monica on shortly for the place-based, inquiry-based, and experiential learning for the 21st century. So really excited to have this webinar, and really timely, I think, as well. Would like to give a thank you to, you'll see on the screen there, our sponsors of the webinar series, Columbia Basin Trust, Kootenay Savings, and the Environmental Education Provincial Specialist Association. So for those of you who are new to joining us on the webinars, a few tips and tricks here. Just to let you know, everybody is on mute. You can enter questions in the question/chat box, and only I'll see those questions, but I'll collect them up and we can respond to them at the end of the webinar. Unfortunately, they're working on the technology to allow participants to chat between themselves, but that's not an option at this point. So questions will be answered at the end of the webinar, and we expect time to allow for that. And after the webinar, you will receive a very short survey, and we'd really love it if you could respond, both giving us feedback on this webinar as well as suggestions for future webinars. Okay, so this webinar is, like I said, the third one in the series of 6 we've got here. Really excited next week to bring in Sana Vanderos all the way from the Palisades Center in Jasper, who's going to talk about students as stewards. And then we've got the duet of Tara and Barb looking at environmental inquiry learning, some ideas and examples on that. And then finishing it off with none other than Ali Candy, who's the education coordinator for Groundswell's community greenhouse and permaculture gardens. So really awesome crew we've got lined up for you. And this is part of our bigger 2016 lineup, and I know a few of you have seen it, but if you haven't seen it yet, we've got some really great events and workshops and other goodies we're looking forward to this year. On Monday, I should have an email sent out to all of our members launching registration for the Inquiry Institute, which CBN has picked up 10 spots to offer complimentary registration to our members, as well as registration for Sue Staniforth's community-based social marketing workshop and her Teaching About Invasive Species workshop that she's just piloted this week for the first time and is going to bring it to the second time, or for the second time, to us up in Revelstoke. And also hoping to open registration for our Voices for Sustainability Symposium, which isn't to the fall, but is very popular, and this year is at the Wheeler Hut in Glacier National Park. So really excited for that as well. So as you'll see there, lots of great events and ongoing goodness, as well as our Wild Voices for Kids program, which is taking bookings for this coming spring already. We're getting bookings in. So if you have any questions about any of our events or opportunities, feel free to get in touch with me, Duncan Whittick. And I didn't mention it, but I'm the Executive Director for CBN, and you can reach me at info@cbn.org. Okay, so a couple webinar warm-up questions that I'll send out there to you. Just getting a sense of our audience here. So what community and I'll type it in the box here, do you live in? And if you can respond back in your question/chat box, that would be great. We've got Nelson, Kootenay Lake, Invermere, and Cranbrook, Caslow, Rossland, Kimberley. All right, so a good smattering of folks, and I know we have a few people who are tuning in from the same computer as well. We've got somebody else from Mardell, in the mountains by a river in a very small town. Okay, can you guess where that might be in the Kootenays? Okay, and question number 2, how are you involved in environmental education? See what our response is here. We've got teacher. I guess there's quite a few teachers. Another teacher, community educator, and elementary educators. Oh, and welcome to Deb too. And yeah, teaching young children and taking them outdoors. A common theme. That's great. Okay, so I think Monica is getting a sense of who our audience is here, and I think it's nice. We've got a nice group. We've got 14 people joining in, so and most of whom are CBEAN members. So great to have you on today. So without further ado, I will introduce our presenter today. Very, very, very pleased to have Monica Nissen on the line today doing this webinar. Monica has been an environmental educator for over 20 years. She's also a certified teacher, and she's out in School District 8 in Nelson. She's also the manager of education for WildSite. She's a director for CBEAN, a WildBC facilitator, a Know Your Watershed educator, Kootenai Community BAT Project educator, Stream of Dreams educator, the Atlas Program educator, and the West Kootenai Teacher Education Program instructor, the WECTEP program. She was also a very instrumental member on the committee that provided resources to the Ministry of Education on 21st century learning competencies. And that included ecological literacy, systems thinking, and place-based learning concepts for K-9. So she's got a really deep understanding of that. And I know she doesn't like spreading this around too much, but she is not only CBEAN's 2015 Award of Excellence recipient, but she is the 2015 National Award of Excellence recipient. So we are very lucky to have someone like her in our region and who's willing to share with everybody else today. So without further ado, I will turn the presentation here over to Monica. We'll just take a moment to transition to her computer on the other side of the Kootenays. Okay. Is your mic working there, Monica?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Awesome. And see you, I think.
Can you guys see me?
Not yet.
Oh, hold on, stand by.
There you are. Cool. Well, I will leave you to it.
All right.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This is definitely a new mode for me to be just kind of talking at a little spot on my computer and knowing that all your faces are on the other side of that. But hello and thanks for spending your little bit of your afternoon with me and all of us together, and hopefully we can figure out some way to do a bit of a chat at the end of this. But I'm excited to explore place-based inquiry and experiential learning and how it's supported by the new BC curriculum. Okay, and I'm trying to forward it. Oh yeah, here we go, special way. So the learning intentions for this next little bit for me, to introduce some of the key concepts of our new curriculum, to look at how place-based and inquiry, both as experiential ways of learning, support this new curriculum, to describe a few examples, just maybe share a couple stories, resources and ideas, and hopefully also within this group to begin conversations to support one another on our learning journey. So I'm hoping that we can work together ongoingly. And I just wanted to say too, for some of the folks who are tuning in who were part of the school district teams in the last couple of days, a lot of this might be repetitive, and I won't be at all insulted if you busy yourself with something else for a little while, and then you can come back at the end when we start sharing our stories. I realize that in the group we have both non-formal and formal educators, and some folks who are probably quite familiar with some of the new curriculum pieces. I know in School District 8 we've already had one curriculum implementation day, so some people are quite on board with what's going on, and for some people this might be newer stuff. And I think it's really important for those of us who are also working with different organizations supporting what's happening in and outside the schools and sort of through non-formal organizations to understand what's happening with the curriculum as well, so that we can structure our programs so that they fit and support. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're going here. So BC's curriculum is being transformed. I think the idea of it being a new curriculum is a bit of a misnomer, or it's more appropriate probably to just say that the curriculum is being transformed, and I think a lot of teachers got a lot of solace out of that, just recognizing that this doesn't mean that we're throwing out everything. It just means a bit of a new lens and a new way of looking at the curriculum. And it really is something that's happening globally. So in terms of looking at the trends and looking at why this is coming about, it's really happening all over the world in terms of looking at what 21st century education looks like. And of course, as we're all aware, information is available and knowledge is changing constantly. We're in a knowledge-based economy, and information is at our fingertips, and things are changing so rapidly that we don't really have a way of knowing what in X number of years from now the high school graduates, what information they need to have. But what we do know is that they need to know how to learn. And so in this quote here from Sir Ken Robinson, the whole idea that the focus on facts, memorization, particular bits of knowledge is really being looked at and in favor of that, or rather than that, we're favoring creativity and innovation. And so that's really where this is all coming from. In 2010, there was the Premier's Technology Council report was put out, and 5 kind of key points were identified in terms of what 21st century learning actually is. And so the idea of, again, from learning, rather than learning information, we're learning how to learn. From just information or data to discovery, from one size fits all to tailored learning. And that's where that flexible learning and individualized learning comes in. And then from testing to assess to assessing to learn, that whole assessment for learning piece. And then moving our learning from classroom learning into thinking about it more as lifelong learning. And that's a really exciting one, because I think it means that it really enables and empowers all of us as educators to call ourselves learners as well. We're all co-learners. And I think that's a really refreshing view, which is different than perhaps in the past when it was sort of a sage on the stage kind of approach. This is just one of the many documents. Sorry, it's a bad picture. This is one of the many documents that talks about BC's redesigned curriculum, and so there's a lot of things. If you go to Transforming BC's Curriculum, if you search for that, you can find a lot of the new documents, and a lot of them are just quick little, this one's just a 2-page little document that shows what some of the highlights are and how things are structured. So the guiding principles around this new Transformed BC curriculum is the development of core competencies. So rather than just lots of lists of what people need to know, it's the skills that they need to know. Looking at key concepts and big ideas, those generalizations rather than lots of details in terms of what needs to be known and understood. And this is really very much the case, is that the focus is on place-based and community-connected learning. That appears in quite a few different places in the different documents that describe this new curriculum. And another really key piece, a pillar to the new Transform BC curriculum, is to integrate First Peoples principles of learning and Aboriginal perspectives. So this is the BC curriculum model. The 3 rings represent the key aspects of the curriculum. Underlying those are the core competencies. And I'd just like to acknowledge Lori Fair from School District 8, who kind of helped us understand what these 3 components are by including the animal totem that might signify these different aspects. And so the eagle, who flies above and looks down and has a really big perspective, really big view on everything below, represents the big ideas. So that's the understand component of the new curriculum. So the generalizations, the overarching kind of key principles, those key things that are true and always will be true, under which we can kind of design and figure out what topics we need to know. So that's the eagle and the understand component. The cougar, who has an intimate knowledge of all the workings in the forest and knows all the trails that the deer and other prey animals might take, and just really knows the landscape. The cougar represents the know aspect of the BC curriculum model. So these are the content learning standards, and these are what used to be called prescribed learning outcomes. These are the sort of the topics, what the students should know. And the big difference between what was true in the past and what is true now is that there are less of those content learning standards. So teachers are much less overwhelmed in terms of needing to tick off many, many boxes and say they have to cover so many different topics. So the content learning standards are really just there to kind of support those big ideas, but because there are less of them, it just allows for a lot more flexibility on the part of the teacher and also the student to determine what it is that they really want to learn and how. So in terms of how to learn, the beaver, who's always doing, who's always very busy, represents the curricular competencies. So these are the skills and strategies and processes. These are how we do things and what skills we'd like our students to graduate with. And so if we look at all of these different components, they all work together and they're all underlain by the core competencies, which are kind of the main fundamental skills that really are about who these students will be as people, how they will be 21st century citizens. I really like this way of demonstrating the model, which I found on the ministry's website as well, and it places the learner in the center. And so again, this idea, this shift away from the teacher as being the all-knowing person who has all the knowledge and stands at the front and communicates it out to the students. The learner's in the middle, and they're surrounded. The learner is surrounded by his or her place, and place is really, really a key component or a key pillar of the new BC curriculum. And we really want to learn in place and look at what's relevant and connected to the learner in terms of where they live. And this doesn't necessarily mean that we don't look at global perspectives at all. It just means that we start with what the learner is interested in and sort of appropriately ripple out from a very close home-based family outwards, and we sort of act back, sort of classic acting locally and thinking globally. But place in terms of where we are is just a really important piece in this new model. So I kind of like the way that this has been organized to remind us of that. And also just reminding us of the flexible learning environment. So the idea is really strong in the new curriculum that learning doesn't just happen in the four walls of the school. And so there does need to be, or there's a real welcoming to be learning that happens outside of the school, out in the community, and in all different aspects of place in which the learner is. So that's a very exciting thing as well, to be really inherently included and written into this new curriculum. So overlying or encircling all of the learning and thinking about what is really the bottom line, the core, are these competencies. And so these go across the different curriculum areas. So these competencies are talking about language arts or math or science or socials or any of those things, in all of the topics, all the subject areas, we're thinking always about what we would like our students to be able to develop as people in terms of their thinking, their communicating, and their personal and social. And so I think that's a really great pillar or foundation for us to look at planning our programs and co-learning or learning together with our students. And I've been told that the triangles are the triangles that are the symbols that are representative of the core competencies are designed to be triangles because they are solid, they are like a pillar, a foundation. The big ideas are represented as circles, and that's because they can really be rolled from one curricular area to another. So you could really do a lot of cross-curricular learning and thinking about those core competencies as kind of what we're really trying to reach, whether it's through a math lesson or a math and science and language arts lesson or an arts lesson, all rolled into one multidisciplinary project, but looking at the core competencies underneath. Just move to, in particular, personal and social, how it connects perhaps most to environmental education. The personal and social core competency really does talk about how students are to develop awareness and take responsibility for their social, physical, natural environments by working independently and collaboratively for the benefit of others, communities, and the environment. It's very holistic, and it really does invite us to look at, again, our place and our environment, whether it's our natural environment or our built environment, and the interaction between those, and looking at how we can analyze issues and look at perspectives and take actions for positive, sustainable change. And so I think it really enables a lot of that, that place-based learning to be about real things that are in our environment, that are in our place. Another key component of the new curriculum, or the transformed curriculum, is looking at First People's principles of learning. And so even this slide comes from just a document that was describing how the whole process came about, and just the fact that, to me, that honor, respect, and trust were fundamental parts of establishing the framework is really speaks to what they're talking about, and I think it's really powerful. It's a powerful place to start from. The principles of learning, the First People's principles of learning, I think if you read through them, make a lot of sense just in terms of what strong and connected learning is. And I think that keeping these principles in mind and having them underlie everything that we do is a really great thing to strive for in terms of really being holistic and really looking at what's important. So I think that it's a great thing to have that articulated so strongly and so powerfully. The Aboriginal worldviews and perspectives in the classroom document is a really great tool for looking at how we can do that. And again, a lot of the descriptions here in this document, to me, just really define what great teaching and learning are. There is, in particular, as connects to environmental education, there is a local focus, talking about engagement with the land and nature and the outdoors, and of course that learning should happen experientially. So it's, again, a really great foundational document, and I think it should really and can really help inform how we think about learning and how we design learning experiences. So I talked about place and place-based learning being very important and a key part of the new curriculum, the transformed curriculum. And it's exciting to me because a lot of people, even just looking at some of your responses in terms of how you're connected to environmental education, I think a lot of people are recognizing the importance of just getting outside the school, out into the world for real and relevant learning. And it's exciting that there are various places in which, in the documents, in which it's quite strongly articulated that we need to focus on place. But I especially like this this piece from the curricular competencies in science, where it's stated very clearly that all students from kindergarten through grade 9 are to experience and interpret the local environment. So to me, that's an invitation to get outside. It's a mandate, basically. And so really exciting to talk to some of the school districts and the environmental education teams recently, and it seemed like it was pretty much a very, very common thread that teachers, administrators, upper management, lots of support for getting students outside. So that's a very exciting thing, and I just think it's great to see it actually written right in there. So what is place-based learning then? So again, this comes right from the ministry documents, and place-based approach is evolving, cross-curricular, and it emphasizes the value of learning directly from one's own community or region. And I really like, I was talking about this the other day too with some of the other folks, some of you who are on this call, but the idea that place-based is really, it's really a wide look at our world. When we're talking about place-based learning, we're talking about our natural environment, we're talking about our built environment, we're talking about community members. We're really talking about the real world outside of our school, inside and outside of our school. And so, yeah, it's an exciting definition, and it's really great to see that in there. And these are some of the other pieces that come right from the ministry documents. So emphasizes hands-on real-world learning. So there's your experiential learning right there. Helps students develop ties to their community, enhances students' appreciation for the natural world, and develops active, engaged citizenry. So a real invitation to get out there and actually get involved with community groups and learn from and with our community. This is another piece that I just think is an amazing thing to see written right into the curriculum. Students developing a place-based knowledge about the area in which they live, learning about and building on Aboriginal knowledge and other traditional knowledge of the area, and developing an intuitive relationship with and respect for the natural world. Yeah, it's great. A sense of relatedness that encourages a lifelong harmony with nature. That's a wonderful paragraph to find in the curriculum goals and rationale, and so I think it's, again, a real invitation. So inquiry, it's a real buzzword these days. I think it just represents one of those best practices that a lot of teachers are already using. It's a mindset that students use to build their own knowledge and understanding through an active, open-minded exploration into a meaningful question, problem, or issue. So the idea with inquiry is that it's not necessarily a free-for-all. It's not necessarily that students have no structure whatsoever. There's really a need for the proper scaffolding and the proper kind of appropriateness in terms of allowing the students and encouraging the students to be in charge of their own learning. But it's really a move towards them being the ones, the learners being the ones who ask the questions. So it's a student-centered way of looking at how learning and teaching happens. And I think that, again, a lot of teachers are already doing this in different ways. And it's exciting to see that we're all learning and developing new tools on how to increase and expand the ways that we use inquiry. So it's wonderful to see it, again, right in the curriculum. and it lends itself so well to it connects so well with place-based learning and environmental education. I think that, yeah, Mardell, just yesterday, you had said that a lot of the teachers' passion projects that they do that have to do with environmental education just lend themselves so naturally to inquiry. But I unplugged my phone. Sorry. Oh, geez. I really did think I unplugged my phone. There. So what is inquiry? So it's a process whereby students ask questions. They produce some sort of end product at the end to demonstrate their understanding. They're actively involved in building their knowledge. They're employing disciplinary thinking. I think one of the key parts of that is just making sure that the question is a good question. And I think that if they have a good question and they have support in finding the answer, those are some real keys. Oh yeah, okay, sorry, before I go on to that. So I guess I wanted to just go move to a few examples or a few sort of success stories, things that I've seen, observed, possibly been involved with, that to me seem like they really demonstrate place-based and inquiry learning. And I guess just before I do that, I wanted to say that experiential learning just naturally goes in with those two. I didn't feel like I needed to dedicate particular slides to that, but if we're doing place-based and we're doing inquiry, by nature it's experiential. So I just wanted to share, yeah, a few success stories. And I don't know, Duncan, if we can actually turn the microphones on now, or we talked about maybe trying to do that, but it would be kind of fun if we could have folks be able to chime in a little bit and sort of talk about or share. So yes. Is that still a possibility?
For sure, yeah. We could try to take everyone's mic off. If we do get feedback, the second option is we could just take people's mics off kind of one at a time. But I'll try. Let's try the big experiment first and see how much feedback we get on. So I'll give everybody a second of warning here. You can put your mute back on once it's off just by clicking your little green mic. But I'll take it off, folks, here and see if we can get a conversation going. Imagine that in a webinar. So that is everybody's mics off. And again, if you want yours on, you can't see it, and you want your mute on, just let me know by the chat or by saying something. So you should be able to talk to everybody now.
Somebody has it.
We might have to isolate here. Okay. Oh, Monica, you're back on now. You were off for a sec there.
Oh yeah.
We have a baby in the crowd. That's great, but nope. There you go. I'll see if I can go down the list again here. Okay, we're good so far. Yeah. Okay, and a few people have turned theirs off. So I think we've got most people's on that I can turn on. All right. Can you say something, Monica, or are you on mute too?
Oh,
you're good. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have some people on and some people off. I really wanted to have certain people on, especially because my first example and inspiration that I wanted to share was from Redfish Elementary School in SC8. They held this really amazing day called Fall Into Nature Day, and I got to be involved with it as part of WildBC, the Wild Schools program, because Redfish is a wild school. And so through that, we were able to host a planning day, which was actually WildBC workshop, and so the school got some Project Wild manuals. But I think even more valuable than that, to be honest, was the collaboration, the whole staff meeting, and the collaboration time that began on that day and then continued. And it was just around planning a day where the whole school would go outside and basically just set up some routines and some practices and some ways of being outside in order to really work on their commitment, or to establish and set up their commitment to outdoor learning. And it was an amazing day with the whole staff, the whole student body divided into multi-age groups. It was done with a lot of honor and respect. Students were drummed into a circle and put into different groups. They went into the forest and learned how to walk with respect in the forest and learned some traditional ways of showing honor and respect from Candace Begg and Deborah Nelson. And it was a very powerful day. They practiced safety and respect for the wildlife and some of the things they might do if they were to encounter animals out there. They practiced their observation skills. They practiced their full body listening. And I really love my listening equation, the whole body listening that Redfish uses. They put their own spin on that, and they actually call it Inukska listening. And Candace, please correct me if my pronunciation is not right. And it's the Tanaha word for Columbian ground squirrel. And so they've taken the Columbian ground squirrel as the icon for a very attentive, full body listening animal. So the Columbian ground squirrel is representing a full body listening individual, because the ground squirrel has to be so attentive when they listen to when they're looking and guarding their homes. And so it's just a lovely icon for the students to keep touching on as they go outside and learn how to still be fully attentive and learning when they're outside. And so they had a whole series of practices that they walked through that day to really set themselves up for continued outdoor learning. And I just wanted to just share a couple of things that I learned from that, and then maybe we could even have some of the folks who were involved in that give their perspectives. But one of the things I thought that was really so well done and so powerful in that day was the seeking of knowledge keepers. And so Candace they're so lucky to have Candace there at Redfish School, and she's got a lot of teachings, so she can bring a lot of Aboriginal knowledge to the students. And Deborah Nelson, who was also is a community member who was helping that day, it was just amazing gift to be able to provide all of that knowledge. The other thing about that day is they were developing foundational practices and school culture. So the whole school was going through the same activities, and so they all know now what it means to walk in the forest with honor. They all know what it means to be safe around wildlife. It's interesting because they just really turned it all into a school culture, and so every class and every student kind of is on the same wavelength in that way. And I think the other thing that I thought was very strong about that is the commitment to collaboration. So this whole staff worked on the planning for that day, and made it happen as a group. And so everyone, like I said, was kind of had that same culture around it. So I don't know, that was very inspiring, and I wonder if some of the other folks who were involved, if you have your microphones on, if you want to add to that at all.
I have my microphone on, but I don't have a microphone. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is Cheryl. I have Candace and Shelley here with me, and I felt that that was a great day for establishing culture and really moving forward in our outdoor education goal for the whole staff. And it really set that tone that we wanted to continue with, and that's really worked for me in my classroom for continuing on.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else from Redfish want to say anything?
They're waving to you.
All right, excellent. So yeah, well, thank you for a wonderful example, and I hope it's okay that I shared that, but I was definitely very, very moved by that day, and I just thought there were so many excellent practices in that day that I hope that that can be something that could be shared with other schools.
Absolutely, it's back to the commitment to collaboration, right?
Excellent, yeah. Great. So I wanted to share another one, which is the Know Your Watershed program, which it's actually, Know Your Watershed is a Columbia Basin Trust program that WildSite delivers, and over the last few years we've offered it to all grade 8 students in the whole basin. Not necessarily every single class every year, but it's been offered to pretty much every school. And we're shifting that program as the curriculum changes, recognizing that grade 8 might not be the perfect place for the big ideas that encompass water, but at the same time it really builds on core competencies at any grade. So we're going to see what happens and what Columbia Basin Trust would like to do. But part of this looking at the new, where we might be going with the program is we were given some extra capacity to do some really in-depth stewardship action projects. So Wildflower Middle School, which is actually 789 school, took on an amazing project. They basically adopted Duck Bay, which is just a small bay in Kootenay Lake down very close to the soccer field and the mall, so it's a very sort of visible place in the community, and they worked together with a number of stakeholders. So they worked with Living Lakes Canada and WildSite and Friends of Kootenay Lake and the Invasive Species Council and the City of Nelson, and so they had a lot of visits and a lot of mentorship from a variety of different organizations, and they did a lot of things that were quite real and relevant. And so they went out there and they did some tree planting and invasive species removal, and they also worked with Living Lakes Canada to collect some water sampling to determine, to establish a bit of a baseline set of data to see whether a built wetland could actually help to mitigate the effects, the water quality effects of stormwater. So stormwater is the water that runs down the street without being treated at this septic at the wastewater treatment plant. It's water that just runs from the streets and parking lots and goes directly into the lake. And so there's a plan to set up a whole to help build a wetland, because wetland plants are known to be good at filtering water. And so the students were actually collecting some data that will be used to as baseline to establish how effective this is. And they've kind of committed to a multi-year involvement in this project. And for many, there were probably 4 or 5 different times when they went down to Duck Bay and collected information, learned about wetlands, did some research, did some scientific drawings, did water quality testing, and all those different things. And so one of the outputs from that project was they made a sign. So they actually did all the artwork themselves and the research and the text. And so that sign will be put up down at the bay. So yeah, some of the key things on that project again were the connecting with community organizations to make it really authentic for them, and to have support from groups that are experts in their fields, and the collecting of real data. So that was really amazing, because I think that they were pretty excited to be collecting water quality samples that would actually be looked at by someone. It wasn't just, this is what you would do if you were a scientist. It was like, this is actually real and relevant information that we're collecting. And then also it involved an authentic audience. So not only is the information, the data that they're collecting going to people who actually analyze their water quality information, but they also presented an incredible, they made an amazing presentation to the West Kootenay Teacher Education Program student teachers, and told them all about their project and how the learning in their project modeled the kind of learning that they really wanted to do. So that was really great. And one of the quotes from that I just thought was amazing was one of the students said, you know, this project isn't just about filling up our heads with information, like we're actually doing something real. And so it was quite inspiring. And the other piece around this was they're really practicing stewardship. So I think that all of those are great learnings in terms of how we can get the learning outside of schools, and to remember that there are community organizations and you know, audiences out there that could really benefit and support the learning, as well as stewardship of places that actually might need some support. And if the students feel like stewards, if they say we've adopted this bay, then it really means something. And they're excited to have this be an ongoing project. I wanted to share with you, this is Janet Cook's planning or kind of synopsis document. And I don't know if it might be a little bit hard to read, but there's just a few key pieces. I was so thrilled to see it. She had originally created it, I think, on a large chart paper, and then she tried to squish it all down into an 8.5 by 11. But this is the kind of planning and the kind of mapping, concept mapping, I think that curriculum planning can take the form of now that we have sort of this open invitation for place-based learning. So some of the things about her planning document. So she's looking at the core competencies. So she's actually created a little legend, and she's looking at all the places in which and aspects of the project are really working on these different core competencies. And I like how she sort of demonstrated that there with her little triangles. She's looking at district directions. So School District 8 is one of the district directions, is closely aligning with the UN sustainability goals. And so she's looking at how sustainability around water and water availability is captured by this project. She's looking at flexible learning environments. So there's inside and outside the classroom, and there's working with community mentors. So again, who the learners are, and who is part of the learning journey and where it's happening. And then I put hearts next to all her different places where she's referred to curricular areas. So really showing the cross-curricular learning. So there was science in there, there was language arts, there was art, there was drama. They really covered a lot of ground with this one project, and I think that's what's so exciting about when we connect our learning to place, is that we can just really go across so many disciplines. And I think that certainly, if it's fair to make this generalization, I think that perhaps elementary school teachers do this maybe a lot more. And I think what's exciting and sort of coming soon will be the curriculum documents for the draft curriculum for the high school. And there's just a lot of invitations there to do cross-curricular learning as well. And so this is could possibly just involve a whole new way of looking at timetabling and a whole new way of creating courses that have components of different curricular areas all in one course. That's a cross-curricular course. And but certainly looking at how project-based learning, I think, really shows how you could do something like that. So yeah, I just wanted to, I asked Janet if I could share her model, because I thought it was a pretty neat way of looking at the new curriculum and looking at her project through that lens. Another project that I got to be involved with, both with the kind of hat of the WildBC Wild Schools granting program, as well as a new program that we have with WildSite called Eco Stewards, was the Blewett Schoolyard Stewardship Project. And so that was an ongoing, it's still ongoing, multi-year project where the school, Blewett School, had a number of large trees, pretty much a stand of trees removed because they had had to have their septic field replaced. And so the students were kind of involved from the get-go with what to do with this now piece of land that had not been replanted at all, and it was just sort of waiting for, I guess, invasive weeds to grow, really. And so, yeah, it started with really asking the students what they wanted, what they saw in terms of visioning for the space. What did they want to see? And so they wanted some structures and rocks and things to play on and a balance beam, but there was also a vision to sort of bring back some of the natural space. They all talked about how they loved to be able to hide, play hide and seek with behind the bushes and the trees, and they missed those things. And so, you know, some of the things like the water slide and the flying fox were maybe not totally able to happen, so we had to bring the vision in just a little bit, but it was really exciting to have a visioning session that involved the students, and just as much as possible to keep all of what they wanted to see, or as much as what we could, as part of the plan. And then this one was really one that needed parent and community support. The pack was amazing. They did some volunteer work parties, but they also were able to leverage some funding, and so we had some really keen parents actually supporting with the fundraising that happened, and we were able to get 120 different things that were planted on one day. But it wasn't all just about the planting. There was also a whole process that went into it. So the students did a mapping project where they actually went and mapped the whole area to just sort of establish what aspect it was and where the sun might be, and you know what was already there and what was the space that was available. And so they engaged parents to help them with that. They had parents who were foresters and parents who were geoscientists, and different people come in, community members. They had someone come in and do a habitat assessment. So it was pretty exciting because all of it was really real, and it was really led by these community mentors, a lot of whom were parents. And so, yeah, it really came together, I think, because it involved the community. So I guess I just wanted to talk about that one because I think that we need to remember to include the greater community, the students, but also the parents, and there's so much expertise and so many amazing people that can come and help out with our learning projects. I'll just do maybe one more, and then I think we're kind of running out of time. And this one, kind of excited about. WildSite has a program called Beyond Recycling, which is a 24-week program that's been delivered for 7 or 8 years, and it's been offered in different schools. That's a pretty huge commitment because it's a long-term program. It's an hour a week for 24 weeks, and it covers a whole bunch of different topics around sustainability. So we look at energy and waste, food security and transportation and climate change. It's really got a sort of sustainability theme, ecological footprint. And this year we have a few teachers who are really embarking on an inquiry project that comes from the topics of Beyond Recycling, but other than that, the students are coming up with their own project ideas, basically starting with a question that comes from the program. And they're, you know, many weeks in already, and the idea is between now and Earth Day, they're actually designing their own inquiry project around a Beyond Recycling topic. So it's very exciting because we have a few teachers who are just taking it and running with it and just really, really keen, and they're starting to collaborate on having a big Earth Day event in which the students will showcase their learning. And we've been working, WildSite's been working with the teachers and sort of really trying to work out each part of that inquiry process so that they feel supported with the whole process. And so it's really exciting. I don't even have any of the learning points yet because because we're still in the process. But I definitely look forward to sharing what we learned from that. But it's really neat to see that it's happening. So I'm looking at the time, and I think I might just turn it over again to the folks with the microphones, because I just feel like a big part of what I would like to see us do is to share stories and connect and support one another. And I'm just wondering if people have some ideas. You know, it feels so funny to just talk and talk like I've just done, and I'd love to listen more. And so I guess what I'd like to put out there to people is, how do you feel, or how would you like to, or how could we keep sharing stories and give ourselves platforms to do this? Any thoughts?
One way that I find so valuable, this is Cheryl, is through blogging and connecting with other teachers and hearing their stories. I've connected with Natasha Burgess in Marysville, and we each follow each other's blog, and we get a lot of inspiration from what we see each other doing with our same age group that we teach.
That's fabulous. Yeah, I love your blog. Maybe I need to learn more about who else has blogs so I can share, I can listen.
That's the big one, is finding out what other people are doing.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. And people can just sign up, right, for each other's blogs? You just ask.
Yeah, if people have that subscribe button available on their blog, then that's an invitation.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Any other ways that people do or would like to? I mean, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to have this webinar, and I hope that some of you, we had such an excellent one from Natasha last week, and she just gave so many really, really tangible examples of what she does, and lots of resources and things for people to read more about. And I think that, yeah, maybe, geez, probably anyone on this call could do an excellent webinar that we could share and learn from.
I would put a shout out to Twitter. Over the past 5 or 6 or 7 years, sorry, this is Mardell, the education platform that Twitter offers is pretty phenomenal. It kind of got really big really fast, but there are some really good pockets. And there's a hashtag EnviroEd that's kind of organized and run by Rob Ridley, who's an educator in Ontario. So if you're looking to connect with Canadian classrooms, it's an excellent place. And the one nice thing about having a Twitter handle or a Twitter feed is you can put your blogs and your websites right on your profile, so people can find you that way as well. And I found amazing EnviroEd teachers who are doing amazing things, and they'll just post up that way as well. He also runs something called the Kindergarten BioBlitz every year, or 3 times a year, so kindergarten classrooms and older classrooms can connect to other ones by exploring their own place and comparing it to others.
Fabulous. Thanks, Mardell.
I just wanted to build on to Cheryl's idea as well. I think that something like the, it's Natasha, sorry. It's the inquiry workshop that we did in October. I think that really sparked a lot of conversation between people, a lot of emails, a lot of contact. And I think some people might have felt at first that they had to reach out in a big way, but I think being able to follow something like a blog and even being able to just say, like, I was inspired by what you did and I can do this or use this advice, and getting contacts and getting links from different people really helps to be able to connect and share those stories without a huge effort being put in.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Natasha.
And it does turn out that our school district websites have portals, which I just found out yesterday. And so School District 5 has just built their EnviroEd portal. We have kind of an open one for people to connect to, and we have the one that is the environmental education team. So we can post things up there, and that's shared within our district. So it's a way to connect that way.
Fabulous. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. I think that we might be kind of out of time. Is that fair to say? Unless anyone has any other thoughts. And hopefully we have each other's information, and certainly CBean is a great way to share things. Duncan's available to take in new things, new content for the website, and there's a lot of things. I guess there's a couple things that I didn't post on this that I would direct people to the CBean website for. So a lot of these documents, the new curriculum and the place-based document that WildBC put out to the Ministry of Education is on that website as well. And so, yeah, so there's a lot of the things that we're referring to, but certainly in terms of the sharing, I really appreciate your thoughts around the blogs and Twitter and just different ways, different modes that we can keep connecting, because I think the more we're able to share stories, the better.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, Monica. And I have been recording this webinar, so Monica's, lovely voice. Unfortunately, we don't record the faces. The video doesn't record, so but the lovely voices will be recorded with this presentation and posted on our website, cbean.ca/webinars by tomorrow. So feel free to share this with colleagues as well, and feel free to follow up with myself. And if you have questions for Monica, you can send them to me too, and I can send them on to Monica, or you want to receive them directly, feel free. But yeah, and Cheryl just posted, thank you, Monica, for sharing your passion and expertise. And I should also say there will be a follow-up email you'll get in an hour from now with a short survey, 5 questions, that we'd love to get your feedback on making these webinars even better, and on future webinar topics. It would be great to get your feedback on too. So on behalf of CBean, thank you so much, Monica, for presenting today. I know it's not the most engaging interactive format, but a huge resource for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you.